one of the things that sort of changed about you over the years is you're somebody who used to not use personal pronouns in songs because it was too personal. Whereas like in the course of the last year, you know, you sort of become like kind of a poster boy for bisexuality, talking about your sex life, much more sort of open, much more out there. How would you account for, you know, the kind of shift from being like intensely private to being really just kind of way up front?
I had to laugh when Newsweek's bisexuality cover came out, and I was one of the modern representatives. It was so, I don't know, I mean, I just, the next Newsweek cover was the upwardly, it's the new term for upwardly mobile. Do you know what I'm, It's like they take this thing and they're like, it's an emerging trend, or it's something that's, I'm sorry, but people like having shifting sexuality has been around for a very, very long time. It's just that society maybe is now recognizing it a little bit more. And so, you know, in a way I have to applaud that a magazine like Newsweek would do something like that. On the other hand, their take on it was really, really very, very weird. It would be like if you put the movie Clueless into a time capsule and someone watched it from another culture 25 years from now and said, this is what the U.S. was like in 1995. It's just not the case, you know. It's very, very removed.
You've become more kind of comfortable with yourself, more comfortable with your celebrity, because discussing such things is not anything that you ever would have done before. I mean,
talking about sex is something that I love. It's only when the spotlight is turned on to me that I kind of throw up the flag of personally. One thing that I've always felt is really important to maintain as a media figure, and as we've gone along and I've become more recognizable and more people are more interested in me as a person and not just as a singer in a band. I want to keep some degree of privacy. I don't think that being a celebrity or being a media figure, which is ancillary to what I do in the first place, gives anybody who wants the right to come into my bedroom, into my parlor, even onto my front porch. You might make it on the front yard, but somebody's got to draw the line there. I'm still not willing to reveal parts of myself or parts of my ideas or beliefs that I think are incredibly private and not really public domain. I mean, I don't feel like my life is public domain. I don't feel like it has to be. And, you know, again, somebody's got to draw the line. I can't leave it up to the media or journalists to draw that line, because I don't think they will. The very nature of the job of being a journalist is to get as much as you can. And I say that with all due respect. It's kind of galling, you know. We were speaking earlier about the whole sexuality thing and Newsweek and the you know, bisexuality. It's here to stay. Kind of Marjorie Garber from whatever Ivy League school, you know, with her wildly insightful, we're living in a bisexual moment. You know, putting myself and Sandra Bernhard and presenting us as like the poster children for this new thing that is hard to understand. You know, that's kind of insulting, frankly. And I certainly don't want to be that. You know, I've never wanted to be that. I always just wanted to be who I am, and I'm really comfortable with that. I have been for years.
I mean, maybe what you're saying is that sort of internally you feel a kind of control with what you're sort of showing and what you're revealing and what you're not. I mean, is that kind of what your take is on it?
It might be that I feel more comfortable in the kind of situations where I'm having to present myself. I mean, I feel I've always felt a little. It makes me nervous, and it makes me very serious in interviews because I want to present myself the way I think I am, and that's hard to do. You know, it's kind of a chore to have all these cameras on you, and to talk about things that are really, really important to you. And maybe I'm more comfortable with that now than I was 5 years ago, certainly 10 years ago.
You've shown a lot of interest in people like, you know, River Phoenix or Kurt Cobain, who really kind of struggled with that, with a higher degree of fame earlier on in their lives. You know, it almost seemed like you became almost a kind of a figure of kind of trust for them. You know, do I mean, could you talk a little bit about, what those experiences were like?
Well, it wouldn't, obviously, if things had turned out differently, it wouldn't be even a media-worthy subject, except that, I have friendships with other people who do basically the same thing I do. Sports people, people who work in film, photographers, music people, all travel constantly, and you're always running into people in the weirdest places, and you recognize something, and it's not ambition, it's not drive, it's not this like workaholic kind of thing, which all of us have, or else we wouldn't be doing this. You recognize a common link there, and you see these people in wild places, and you develop friendships or acquaintances. I don't know that just by having been here as long as we have, that I'm any kind of expert on how to be a celebrity and how to survive it. I don't think I am. I mean, I still struggle with it a lot. And a lot of the struggle is how to present myself in a way that is not. The last thing I ever want to do is become a cartoon of myself, or become one of those people that has to be surrounded by minders and keepers and bodyguards, and is not able to walk down the street and say hello to somebody who says hello to me. That's the last thing I ever want to be. I can't imagine how, as much as I respect these people for what they do, I can't imagine what it's like to be Prince or Madonna. And I never ever want to be that. I feel like I've conducted myself really well too. I mean, I'm actually kind of proud of the fact that when I walk down the street in New York or LA or even smaller cities, people that approach me with some degree of, not fear, I hope, but
Trepidation, perhaps?
they kind of just want to say, I like what you do. They don't want to pull my hair out, which would be very hard. They don't want a piece of my clothing. They don't want to sleep with me, I don't think. And if they do, I completely miss that. They just want to say, hey, I like your work, and that to me says a lot about what R.E.M. means to people. Maybe I'm fooling myself, I don't know, but I don't think so.
With Monster, it seemed like the band consciously set out to make a more abrasive record,
really
a harder
abrasive
record, tougher record. Even sort of your look has gotten sort of edgier. It sort of seemed like there was more of a kind of feel.
With the head?
Yeah.
My hair was falling out. I mean, I thought my hair was falling out.
Oh, really?
All my friends say, you've got a great head of hair.
I can't imagine that problem, actually, myself.
I was really self-conscious about my hair thinning, and I hate people that are self-conscious all the time. And when I shaved it off in 1985 when I kind of went crazy. And I know that I've got a good head, so I just shaved it off, and it's a lot better. I don't look in the mirror ever, except to check for boogers. But so that just kind of happened. I mean, with Monster, Peter got a guitar amp that had tremolo in it. They wrote these songs that were very much from the hip and not from the head, not even from the heart. They're songs that have this unbelievable swing to them,
mm-hmm.
and lyrically, I wanted to rise to the occasion. I wanted to match what they had done musically, and so consequently, all the songs are about sex. We went out with that, to the media. It's a record about sex. In a way, I was kind of seeing who would buy it, because it's not a record about sex, obviously. Anybody that's lived with it and listened to it, the sex thing is very much kind of a veneer for what's really going on in the songs. And if you listen, which is all kinds of things. It's personal, it's political, it's emotional, it's blues, it's funny in some cases, like Star 69, which is a case of a song about betrayal, basically. And it really has very little to do with sex. But I kind of wanted to throw that out and see what people would say and see if they would accept that at face value. And shockingly, a lot of people did accept that at face value. I wasn't testing, really.
But there still is a high level of sexual content on the record, and sex is part of kind of people's identities. I mean, it's there. I mean, you wouldn't say that wasn't true, would you?
I'm sorry.
That the record explores sex as an element of identity. That there's a lot of shifting sex roles, a lot of sort of gender play. I mean, you wouldn't say that wasn't the case, would you?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, obviously I knew when we wrote Crush with Eyeliner, and, you know, for me that was nothing more than a complete homage.
Homage.
You say either, I say either. Let's call the whole thing up.
That's right.
It was an homage to the New York Dolls, and even name-checking the song Frankenstein off of their first album. In the song, I wanted to do a New York Dolls 1973 kind of song, and it was not lost on me, clearly, that a lot of people would think that song was about a drag queen. It's not. It's about a woman. The person in the song is a man who has a huge crush on a woman, sees her as this creature that she's invented. She's like, you know, I don't know, when I'm writing that thing, she was like 21, 22. She's got this whole persona. And he's like, what can I do to make myself attractive to her? Adopt the same persona. And so he does, or he's trying. And it fails to some degree, and it succeeds to some degree in the song. But the point being, it wasn't lost on me that a lot of people would say, it's a song about a drag queen. That's cool, you know, let it be.
Uh-huh.
I Don't Sleep, I Dream. There's references to can I say blowjob on VH1?
We'll bleep
Producer?
it.
we didn't want to be a part of what we perceived as like basically a bunch of kind of ugly people making ugly music for the wrong reasons. We wanted to be like the beautiful people who are in fact the ugly people. We wanted a record that was absolutely one-dimensional, that you heard it the first time, it was right here, you knew what it was about. You don't know what it's about, you know?
Right.
But what seems to be is right there for you. And it's easy, and it's
Yeah,
singular.
it's like a much more accessible surface. It's much more in your face.
It's all veneer and it's all surface. And when you start scratching away at that, that's when it gets interesting. I think the next record is going to continue in that vein. I mean, I have a feeling, and I've talked to the guys about this, and I think we're in agreement. Monster's a fine record. We accomplished, I think, what we set out to accomplish with it. We didn't quite go as far as I think we wanted to. And I have a feeling the next record is going to be a lot rawer, a lot more live, not only because that's the way that we're recording part of it, but that's just the way we're hearing it. You know, Peter's amps are turned up, Mike is playing really hard, Bill's playing really hard. They're writing songs again that are. It's weird. It's like a little. It's a little bit like Lightstridge Pageant. It's a little bit like Automatic for the People and Monster put together. It's like the veneer and the layer.
Making a record that's even harder and rawer than Monster, are you concerned about your audience? I mean, you gained a huge international following with these kind of softer, more delicate records, and now you're sort of coming back. Are you concerned about the people who came to you for one set of things might not accept, this new direction?
Let it so be. I think the people that want to listen and follow are going to listen and follow, and the people that don't, there are plenty of great bands out there that are making great music and great records and going on tour. And
how important is the level of success that R.E.M. has achieved commercially? I mean, setting aside questions of artistic success, but obviously now, I think, no one makes records, to be anonymous or to not, achieve a certain level of sales. You guys have become hugely successful, largely on your own terms. How important is that specific element of things to you? If this record doesn't sell as much as the previous two, or if the next one doesn't sell as much as Monster did, how much will that bother you, or will it bother you at all?
I don't think it'll bother any of us that much. That's not why we're in a band, and that's not, we've said it 100 gazillion times. That's not why we're doing what we do. But, obviously we think about it. I don't think it's a priority. I know it's not a priority. I don't think it would affect the way we wrote songs. I don't think it would affect whether or not we have songs on records that are radio friendly or are not radio friendly. We want to make records, and we want to write songs that we can listen to 10 years down the way and say, okay, that was of a time, but it's good. It's great. It's what we meant. It's what we wanted. We're just not willing to sell ourselves out at this point. We've gone too far. I'd like to say, you know, and I think at the end of my life, hopefully some 50 years from now, I'm gonna, you know, they'll put on my gravestone, he overstated the obvious really well. But we never expected the kind of success that we got. We never expected to make records. Peter didn't want to make an album. He said albums suck. In 1980, 1981, 1979, when we actually started, I was 19, he was 21. Bill and Mike were 20 or 21 years old. We didn't want to make records. We made cassettes. We didn't want to be a part of what we perceived as like basically a bunch of kind of ugly people making ugly music for the wrong reasons. We wanted to be like the beautiful people who were in fact the ugly people, but we wanted to be like television, like Patti Smith, like the Talking Heads, like Blondie. We wanted to do it our way. We wanted to do it without compromising ourselves. I don't think we have. I mean, it is phenomenal that we've reached the level of success that we've reached. I don't think it's because we've moved towards the mainstream. I think the mainstream has moved towards us. And when I say us, I'm speaking of the music community and, you know, the whole thing, not R.E.M. I also don't think that we're like, you know, the leaders of anything at all. I need some coffee. Is that my coffee?
You know, even as kind of out there as you've been in many ways, you know, people don't really have much of a sense about, you know, yourself, your past. You know, could you talk a bit about your childhood, about kinds of things that drew you to music, just what growing up was like for you?
You want me to?
Yeah, please.
That's one of those areas that every now and then I mean, and it's not as calculated as it might sound, but every now and then I'll remember something that happened to me as a child that seems really telling to a conversation. But the time before I was in the band, my family life, my childhood growing up, my relationship with my family, outside of saying that I have a very loving family, unbelievable, like cartoon loving. Our friends can't believe how much we love each other, how much we support one another.
I mean, you're still very close, I know, yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how close we are. We love each other so much, and it's unconditional, and growing up with that gave me, I think, a foundation of strength. It also made me really ignorant to a lot of things that other people have to face, like divorce, like living with one parent, like the emotional problems that brings about. There's a huge fire. Look at this. Can we get a camera on this? Anthony, I'm not kidding.
Oh, heavens. Look.
Can you see it?
That is incredible.
I hope nobody's hurt.
The joys of filming in New York.
Kind of puts my ideas about privacy in perspective a little bit.
Just incredible.
There's a massive fire. Let's go ahead and go in the event that the smoke comes this way and we can't, like, sit here.
Michael, R.E.M. just turned out the chance to have It's the End of the World as We Know It, and I Feel Fine used as the song for Windows 95. I mean, obviously, there's like millions of dollars involved in a decision like that, you know. How does the band come to a decision to turn down something like that?
We've never wanted to align ourselves with any commercial product that can be sold. We draw a distinction between a TV show or a movie, which is, on whatever level, another creative act, and contributing something to that, and selling pantyhose or razors or software. Their offer was very generous. I used Microsoft on occasion. We're not interested in having that kind of connection with R.E.M. You know, it's just not something that we want.
What would it mean? Like,
the contradictions are rampant. Peter's favorite band, when I met him, was the Monkees. The Monkees were nothing but, the Monkees were an invented band. They didn't really exist. You know, that's cool though. Giving a song like Into the World to somebody to use in a commercial is not cool. And it's not something that we've ever wanted to do. $12 million is a lot of money. But, you know, I've got enough money. I'm not hurting. We don't really need it. I think we're going to be around for a really long time.
After the last tour, after the last time you were touring, which is, you know, over 5 years ago now, it seemed like, not exactly like the band was going to break up, but almost like the band became kind of a recording band. At this point, you know, with this tour, you guys are already on to another record. It sort of seems like you're envisioning a future in a way that I've never really experienced R.E.M. doing. It almost seemed like you would always go from sort of thing to thing without a whole lot of planning. But it almost seems like you're looking ahead more now as a band. I mean, is that true? I mean, do you feel like you could see the future of R.E.M. a bit?
That might be a pose, because
we actually might be just pretending that. Yeah.
there's, I don't know anybody who lives more in the present than I do. The band has never really thought ahead too far, particularly creatively. It's not something that we're really capable of. It's not the way we do things. I think we're very much, you know, in the midst of a world tour, and in the head that puts you in. For once, we're able to write songs. I mean, I think, as much as I never want to react to anything, I think to some degree, every record that we make is a reaction to the one before it. I think we reacted really strongly to Monster simply because there was so much going on around that record, namely the tour, a lot of press, a lot of traveling. And that's resulted in new songs being written, and therefore, whether we're thinking about it or not, the new record is being formed right now. You know, we don't know when we're going to actually finish it, when we're going to record it, what we're going to do when we go off tour. I can say that I think we're going to be around for a really long time. You know, I'm really tired of people asking us if we're going to break up on the last day of 1999. We're not. That's as far ahead in the future as I can see.